there, Stampers. My name is Sherry Roth. I'm a Stampin' Up! Demonstrator from Alberta, Canada. And in this video, I'm going to share two simple fun fold cards that really highlight scenic kind of patterned papers. So we've got two that are current at the moment. We've got the Meandering Meadows. So you can see that these are both 6x6 pattern papers. And on one side, they've got this beautiful scenery or scenic imagery, and then the other side is just something that's a little bit more generic. And then there is the One Horse Open Sleigh, which is a little bit more of a winter scene. And then again, the backs are just kind of geometric patterns. So now the fun folds that I share, by no means are these the only fun folds that work well with these types of pattern papers. And they don't need these pattern papers to be great cards. Okay, so they will work with any pattern papers. I just really like them for these kinds of pattern papers because they really highlight the scenes. All right, so let's go ahead and get started. Now I'm going to create with the Meandering Meadows, but then I'm going to share an additional sample using the One Horse Open Sleigh. Okay, so if you're crafting along with me, you'll need half of a sheet of 8.5 by 11, so it measures 5.5 by 8.5, and you'll need a 6x6 piece of pattern paper. Okay, I'm gonna bring in my paper trimmer, and we are going to score this piece first. So I'm gonna open up my arm, and I've got the long edge at the top, and I'm going to score it at 1 7/8. Now, if you're using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, it is 2 ticks before the 2-inch mark. So 1 7/8, and then 3 inches, and then 5.5 inches, and 6 5/8. So if you're using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer, find the 6.5-inch mark, and then it's 2 ticks after the 6.5-inch mark. Okay, now we're going to set that aside, and we're going to bring in our paper trimmer, or our patterned paper, sorry. And the first thing that we want to do is, if your paper is directional, you're going to rotate it, and you're going to decide okay, first of all, if your paper is directional, put it the right way, and you want to decide if you want to trim off the bottom or the top. Now, we have quite a bit of like that impressionistic kind of meadow scenery at the bottom, so I'm going to trim a little bit off the bottom. If you had like lots of sky, then you can trim off of the top. So I'm going to rotate it, and I'm going to cut it at 5 1/4 inches. Okay, so we will use a part of this strip, so we're just going to set that aside for now. Okay, so I'm going to rotate it so that it's going the right direction, and then I'm going to cut it at 7/8 of an inch, which is 2 ticks before the 1-inch mark. And we're going to keep these in order, and then I'm going to cut it at 1 inch. And then we'll cut it at 2 1/4. And then 1 inch. Okay, so we'll set this aside. So you should now have one larger piece that will be the center, and that measures 2 1/4 by 5 1/4. You've got 2 pieces that measure 1 by 5 1/4, and 2 pieces that measure 7/8 of an inch by 5 1/4. Okay, so now we're going to fold. So I've got my large panel in the center, and I'm going to fold that first score line on the right. I'm going to score it in, and then the first score line on the left, and I'll score that in. Okay, and then the second score line on the right, I'm going to fold it out, And the second score line on the left, I'm going to fold it out. And I'm saying first and second from the center. Okay, so it's going to look like that. All right, so it's going to open like that. So now we can set this down and we're going to start adhering our pieces. So I'm going to use this, I'm going to adhere this center panel first. That's going to go right in the middle here so that we have a nice even border all the way around. And then we're going to do these two panels. So these are the 1-inch panels. And that's going to go on here. Now you'll have a little bit less of a border in between the two score lines. You really just want to be focused on lining it up so that it's even. And then we'll do this one. And then for the outer panels, I wanted to add a bit of texture, because if we put these on here, which we can simply just add these on here like this. See how we've got our scenery back, our entire scene. You can just leave it like that, but I wanted to add a little bit of texture to these panels before I add these pieces. So I grabbed 2 more pieces of white. They measure 1 3/4 by 5 1/4 inches, and I ran them through the Stampin' Cut and Emboss using the Timber embossing folder. Okay, so before I adhere these 2 pieces, I am going to adhere these on here for a little bit of added texture. And the glue that I'm using is just Stampin' Up's multi-purpose glue that I've put into just a bottle that I purchased on Amazon, and I will link it below. I get a lot of questions about the bottle. So I will have a full list of supplies that I'm using linked in the description below. All right, so we're lining that up like that, and then we're going to do the same thing on this side. So you can see that we have not lost any of that beautiful scenery from that pattern paper. This is such a great fun fold. And it's a simple fun fold. I'm all about quick and easy. I don't want to spend a ton of time on my cards. I like things that come together that look like I've spent a ton of time, but that don't take a ton of time. Like, look how pretty that is. So pretty. And then it's just going to fold up like this, and that's what it's going to look like. But now we need to work on our focal point. Okay, so let's cover this over. And let me share what I've got here. I've got a vellum circle and a white circle. These were cut using the stylish shape size. So the second smallest is the white, and the third smallest is the vellum. And I'm going to use the Just For You stamp from the So Sincere stamp set. And I'm going to use some Night of Navy ink. So I like to make cards that sometimes aren't specific to an occasion. So Just For You, I could turn this into a birthday card. I could turn it into a thank you card. Thinking of you, I could do pretty much anything with a greeting like Just For You. So I like having these kinds of cards on hand so that I can make them work for whatever kinds of greetings or whatever occasion I need. All right, now I'm using a piece of gold ribbon. Now this is a ribbon that is retired. I have a little tin that I keep all of my retired little scraps in. Actually, scraps period, not necessarily just retired. And I always go to that bin before I cut from a spool of ribbon. And I try to use up some scraps before, or when I can. Okay, That's gonna need a mini glue dot. Let's grab a mini glue dot and adhere that on here. So I just put a little bit of adhesive on there, but that second layer doesn't seem to want to stick, so we'll just fold it over. And then I've got a bow that I've tied using some white twine, and I'm just gonna fold a mini glue dot in half and position that over top. And I'm gonna untwist this. And we'll position this on here like that. And then we'll grab some dimensionals. And we're just gonna pop a couple dimensionals in behind here. And then, oh, that twisted again. Let's just untwist that. Not that you're gonna see it. And we'll position that in the center. And then this is gonna get a little bit of glue. And I'm gonna put glue only on about half of it because it's going to hang off the edge. Oh, we could put it down here. Or we could put it up here. You know what? I think we're gonna do it this, way. We're only gonna have a tiny little bit hanging off the edge on this one. There we go. And then we're gonna finish this off with some of our birds and dragonflies. I'm gonna use the dragonflies for this and just add a couple on here. There we go. So now we've got a simple fun fold that really highlights that pattern paper. And to write a message, I would just use this spot right here at the back of the card. All right, so there is our first simple fun fold. Here is one done using the One Horse Open Sleigh. Isn't it beautiful? And then I added a white panel on the back so that you could write, or I can write using just a regular pen. And this piece here, we can add this right across here at the bottom. So I'm just gonna cut this. That strip is about 2.5 inches. So I am going to, I think it's 2.5 inches. Going by memory here. Yep, 2.5 inches. So we'll just add this along the bottom. And that is our first fun fold card. Just like that. All right. Okay, so moving on to the next one. Now for this one, again, I have half of a sheet of Night of Navy cardstock, so 5.5 by 8.5, and my piece of 6 by 6 patterned paper. So I'm just gonna cover this over. I like to keep the lid on this so that it doesn't dry out and get clogged. Okay, so for this one, we're gonna rotate it so that the long edge is at the top. We're gonna score it in 2 places. So 2 1/8, which is 2 ticks after the 2 inches if you are using the Stampin' Up! Trimmer. And then again at 4 1/4. Okay, then we're gonna bring in our patterned paper. And again, you wanna have a look at it and figure out, do you wanna trim a little bit off the bottom or off the top? Again, I'm gonna trim it off the bottom. So I'm gonna rotate it and I'm gonna cut it at 5 1/4. And then I'm gonna rotate it back so it's going the right direction, and I'm gonna cut it at 4 inches. Okay, and we're gonna use these 2 pieces. We'll bring back our card base. The other thing that I have here is I have a piece of white cardstock that measures 4 inches by 5 1/4, and I have a label shape that was cut using the Stylish Shapes dies, and it's this largest label shape die. Okay, so let's go ahead and start assembling. I'm gonna fold this center score line. in so it's a mountain fold, and then this back so it's like a valley fold. All right, so it's gonna look like that. And then we're gonna take this piece and we're gonna add adhesive on here, but we're only gonna add adhesive to this bit right here. Okay, so I'm kind of using this as a guide so that I know where to position my adhesive. Then I'm gonna fold that down and center this so that I have an even border at the top and the bottom and on the left-hand side. Okay, so it's gonna open like this. All right, and then for our inside piece, we're gonna take this and this leftover piece and we're gonna add this on here like this. It will be pretty much the same height. Mine's a little bit, that's okay. I have a little bit of white showing on the top and the bottom, but that's fine. But they're both 5 1/4 inches. It's just because I cut them using 2 different paper trimmers. All right, and then this is gonna go in here like this so that we have an even border. And see, so when you open your card, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna see that beautiful patterned paper. And then when you're when you close it, you can't see that white layer on the inside. All right, so now we're gonna do our greeting. And again, I am going to choose a greeting from the So Sincere stamp set. So I'm gonna use this, "Your kindness is so appreciated." And I'm gonna use Stampin' Write markers. I want my greeting to be in 2 different colors. So our Stampin' Write markers are water-based markers, which means that we can use them right on the stamps and they'll wash off nicely. So I'm using Orchid Oasis to ink up the scripty words. So the word kindness and appreciated. And I'm using the brush tip. There are 2 tips to these pens. There's a brush tip and then a bullet tip. And I'm using it at an angle so that it doesn't fray my marker tip. And then I'm going to use some Night of Navy and ink up the block lettering. Okay, and then make sure that's straight. I'm just going to give that a little huff. That remoistens it, and I'm going to stamp it a little bit closer to the left-hand side. All right, so then we've got our 2-toned greeting here. Okay, I'm going to repeat that, a similar look to what I did on the first card. So I'm going to take my seal adhesive, put a little strip of glue down, and again I had this longer strip of this gold ribbon. It happens to work with both of these pattern paper packs, so I thought I would put it to use. And I'll just trim that. And then again I have a white bow tied from some white twine, and I'll just fold a mini glue dot in half, add this on here. Using baker's twine on cards it's almost like a signature move for me. I very rarely create a card that does not have a little bit of baker's twine somewhere on it. Okay, and then we're going to take some dimensionals. I'm going to pop one here and then one just a little bit closer in because I am going to trim off the edge of this. So I'm going to position this on here like that, and then I'll just trim off this excess piece. And then we're going to bring in our little embellishments. This time let's use the birds. We'll use these tiny little birds. Actually, put it more like that. There we go. And there is our second fun fold card. Again, so simple to create, but it really, really highlights or showcases that beautiful patterned paper. And then here's one done with the one horse open sleigh. All right, so I hope you guys enjoyed those two simple fun fold cards that I created for you today, and I hope you give them a try. I will have in the description below a list of all of the supplies that I've used, but if you have any questions about anything, don't hesitate to post in the comments, and if you aren't yet a subscriber, hit that subscribe button. All right, thanks so much for watching. Take care.